Welcome to the graveyard. I'm Violet Hummingbird, and today is day 27 of Spooky October, where every evening in the month of October I read you a true ghost story. And I'm actually discovering these along with you for the first time, as I myself haven't read them all the way through. I just skimmed the stories to choose them for this month. And today our story is by Robin. It has been said that London is the most haunted city in the world. Whether the veracity of the statement can be proven is not the subject of my story, but one thing I can say with conviction: ghosts abound in this tale of one city. From the Tower of London, where the rich and famous were ceremoniously beheaded, to London's still poverty-stricken East End, which many say has not changed since the 1888 murderous rampage of Jack the Ripper, London has a mixed history of high civilization, squalor, and untimely death. Poe himself could not have created a better setting for a haunting. My haunted encounter shows that ghosts continue to live in this city of Dickens, beer, and fish and chips. In fact, they sometimes like to stay in hotels. It happened 3 years ago while I was visiting my father, who had, after more than 30 years of practicing law, decided to do the unthinkable: return to school. And London was his city of choice. I was living in Europe at the time, so I decided to visit him. Actually, I was worried about him, arriving in this strange city in the dead of night with only a suitcase and lacking any sense of direction. Well, I figured he'd spent enough years worrying about me as a child. Now it was my turn to worry about him. I made up some excuse about needing to research my book at a law library and took off for London. Never did I anticipate my otherworldly encounter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I chose a large but modest hotel on Russell Square, a place famous for its schools, libraries, and, of course, pubs. Convincing my father to stay at the hotel with me was not a difficult task, particularly since I made him an irresistible offer: a comfortable room with an English breakfast and cable television. We spent several days exploring London and, to keep up my ruse, several law libraries. Since I had lived in London a few years earlier, I showed him the touristy hangouts on Oxford and Bond Streets, as well as the not-so-touristy antique bookstores and ethnic restaurants. The roles were truly reversed. I was the leader, he the follower, and after several days of this Freaky Friday-style living, we both were ready to call it quits. By the last day of my visit, my father had seen just about all of the London that he wanted to experience. He resigned himself to staying in the room, watching his favorite show, CNBC. I was still shopping and exploring, an experience I enjoyed even more since I wasn't dragging my reluctant non-tourist with me. Late in the afternoon, I returned to the room, and we agreed to meet there and then find a place for dinner. As I stepped off the elevator, I could hear CNBC blasting in the hallway. Good, he's already here, I thought, both grateful and ominously. I'd had a very productive shopping day, but was carrying an armload of bags. I had not yet started to worry about how I was going to pack all my goodies for my return trip. My immediate concern was that my room key was in my purse, probably at the bottom where it always worked its way to, and I didn't feel like looking for it. No problem, I'll just knock on the door, I thought. I could hear the familiar CNBC voices blasting on the television, so I knew that my father was in the room waiting for me. I knocked politely and waited. And I waited. I knocked harder, but still politely, and waited. And waited. Still no answer. I began to get annoyed. I banged hard on the door, causing it to jiggle on its hinges. I had lost my sense of politeness by this time. He must hear this, I thought to myself. Again, I waited. And waited. I continued to hold all my shopping bags while I stood in the front of the door waiting to be let in the room. I could clearly hear the voices on the television. They discussed various companies and the day's performance of the European markets. Still, I waited. I really did not relish the idea of digging my own into my disorganized, overstuffed purse to find my room key. Anyway, he's just sitting there, but he'll have to get up and open the door. I said aloud to myself. I banged the door again, and I waited. The DAX, the FTSE, the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ. I listened, and I waited. Finally, deciding to take some initiative, I stabilized my shopping bags in one hand and started digging in my purse for the room key. My annoyance was increasing to a dangerously high level. I began muttering about, he's probably going to open the door just as I find the room key. Then I found it, but still no father. I pushed the room key into the door, waited for the green light, and pulled. Actually, I ripped it out, then pushing open the door. It happened in an instant. I saw and heard CNBC on the television. I caught a quick glimpse of the news reporter, viewed the ticker tape going slowly across the bottom of the screen, glimpsed the currency figures in the bottom right corner, everything I had expected, the collage of colors, numbers, and people flashing on the active television screen, but only for a quick second. Then it turned off. I hurriedly looked at the bed, expecting to see my father sleeping there, but he wasn't. He wasn't in the room at all. I was the only person in the room. Or was I? The room and the hallway suddenly felt eerily silent. No television sounds. No banging on the door, no voice calling. Television screen was dark. The room was dead quiet. What was happening here? Just like seeing something move in the corner of your eye and then turning your head quickly toward it but finding nothing. I felt that I'd seen something, but perhaps I did not. Was my imagination out of control? They still say that London is the most haunted city in the world. Perhaps they're right. At least the hotel did not charge me for having an extra guest. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of this story. And I hope to see you tomorrow night for another spooky story time. If you have a true ghost story of your own, please don't hesitate to email it to me. My email is heytherehummingbird@runbox.com. I'll put that down in the description down below. And please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss another spooky story. I will see you tomorrow night, and until then, happy spooky October.